Discover the incredible moment Black girl's touching plea to stepmother reveals a hidden secret. Maya stood in the living room, the walls adorned with her father's accolades, always feeling like an afterthought in her own home. The air was thick with memories that suffocated, each framed picture a testament to her father's success, a success particularly acute in the absence of her mother, who seemed to have been erased from their lives. She felt invisible, a wisp of a girl trapped in the shadow of someone else's legacy. Heart racing, she contemplated the weight of the evening ahead as she glanced at the window, the ominous clouds mirroring the turmoil brewing in her mind. With each heartbeat, the fear grew. What if she never got to know her mother's truth? The vibrant soul behind the brushstrokes, the artist behind the memories that gradually faded into obscurity. Her stepmother, Linda, held those pieces, yet Maya quaked at the thought of exposing her own neediness. Were they even there? Would Linda, filled with her own ghosts of resentment, understand the depths of Maya's longing? The thought of broaching such raw emotions twisted her stomach into knots. What if she was met with cold silence? As night slipped in, heavy shadows cloaked the room. Maya finally approached Linda, her pulse thrumming loudly in her ears. "Can we talk?" she managed to whisper, the weight of her vulnerability hanging in the air. Linda turned, tired eyes rimming with the weight of unexpressed grief. Maya's hands trembled as she chose her words carefully. I need to know my mom, the real her." Tension thickened, mingling with the musty scent of old paintings. Linda's expression flickered, an involuntary mix of surprise and something else, something that dined only on despair. Why now? Maya swallowed hard, the truth spilling out. "Because I hate feeling like I'm just my father's legacy. I'm tired of feeling forgotten, like I'm living in a museum, not a home. I want to know who my mother was, what made her." For a moment, the air crackled with a silence that felt both heavy and electric. Linda's defenses seemed to soften, and something flickered in her eyes, a hint of vulnerability Maya hadn't seen before. "Your mother was vibrant. She created beautiful things. Until the accident. Before she could finish, Maya's heart dipped further into an abyss of yearning. "What accident?" Her voice trembled, fear creeping in. The hidden history felt like a stone on her chest. Linda drew a shaky breath. "You don't know?" Maya was thrown into an emotional maelstrom, her thoughts a jumble of dread and desire. "No, I don't know about her paintings or her dreams. I only know what my father wanted me to know." The desperation in her voice echoed like a dirge, tearing at the fragile fabric of their connection. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Maya's chest tightened. "I'm scared, Linda. What if I can't handle the truth? What if I uncover something that shatters any semblance of family left?" The weight of Linda's unspoken truths hung thick in the air, ready to explode and rewrite their realities. Maya felt the urgency of her story crumbling at her fingertips. Could she embrace her mother's suppressed brilliance, or would it vanish into nothingness, just like the whispers of a forgotten artist? Standing at the precipice, she clenched her fists, silent screams rippling beneath the surface. Would unveiling the secrets bond them together, or drive them apart forever? Maya felt her heart stop as Linda's expression remained frozen, her lips pressed together like a seal holding back secrets untold. The ticking clock became a relentless metronome, amplifying the thick silence that engulfed them. This was the moment that could either unravel or stitch together the fragile threads of their relationship. "Your mother's accident," Linda began, her voice scarcely louder than a whisper. "It changed everything for us." This was the invitation Maya had been waiting for, but it felt like a trap, one that might engulf her whole. Her mind raced, spinning wildly between hope and the gravity of dread. "Changed how?" she pressed, almost inaudibly, uncertain if she truly wanted to hear the answer. She could see the anguish etched in Linda's countenance, the weight of years bearing down on her shoulders. "The accident took your mother's life, and it took a part of me, too." At this, Linda's gaze fell to the floor, where the pale carpet absorbed the pain echoing in the room. Maya felt a surge of emotion. Her mother was no longer just a shadow, a mere figment of recollection. She was a woman, real and full of failures and dreams. What happened? For a moment, Linda hesitated, perhaps steeling herself against the tide of memories. As she began to elaborate, Maya surged with a mix of anticipation and fear. She needed to understand, to bridge the chasm that had kept her mother's essence trapped beneath layers of silence. She was an artist, Maya, a painter with a vision that could bring even the dullest spaces to life. But one evening, Linda's voice cracked, one evening she was so consumed by her work that she didn't notice the storm approaching. She left the doors open, the rain poured in, and her canvases, they were ruined. She ran outside to save them, and the pain in Linda's voice scrapped against Maya's heart. And what? The car. It was an accident. She didn't see it coming. As the final words fell from Linda's lips, a kaleidoscope of emotions shattered within Maya. Loss, anger, and the haunting feeling of abandonment tangled like weeds around her thoughts. "I didn't know," she finally managed to say, tears pricking her eyes. "I didn't know she loved painting that much." Linda lifted her gaze, and for the first time, the hardened layers in her expression began to melt. "She loved it fiercely. I couldn't understand it then. I felt overshadowed. But she was fierce and beautiful, and maybe that intensity took her away." A bittersweet flame flickered in Maya's chest. Was this the connection she had sought? The truth that could either heal or deepen their divide? "Maya, I buried a lot of my own feelings after your mother's death. But if you're willing to learn about her, about the paintings, even about the woman I used to know, we could do it together." The tremor in her voice suggested a willingness to acknowledge her own losses, a shared grief in a lifelong starved for acknowledgement. Maya's heart raced with hopes and fears, yet something deep inside her stirred with resolve. Was this their opportunity to weave a new narrative? Connecting over the shared legacy of her mother's artistry could lead them to deeper understanding, if an entire lifetime of resentments could be accepted, unspooled like the accidents of an unintended storm. "I want to," Maya asserted, determination replacing hesitation. "I want to remember her, to understand her paintings and her dreams." The small flicker of mutual commitment ignited a fragile bond. But the unease lingered. What truths lay hidden in the canvases her mother had painted? What kind of mother had she been to allow such a void? In that moment, Maya realized she was standing at the threshold of her own destiny, a budding artist in the making, drawing on the remnants of a legacy. She felt a stirring within, a sense of purpose emerging as she prepared to uncover not only her mother's past, but her own future. Before the conversation could shift into predestined patterns, Maya took a deep breath. "Can we start to find those old paintings? Can we see them together?" With those words, the door creaked open to a labyrinth of discovery. What awaited them in the secret corners of her mother's life could redefine everything Maya thought she knew about love, loss, and her own budding creativity. Maya felt an electric pulse coursing through her veins as she initiated a journey that not only sought to unravel the complex emotional tapestry woven by her mother's life, but also her own identity. Linda, though hesitant, was on the verge of relenting to this collaborative exploration. As they both prepared to embrace the unearthing of her mother's paintings, Maya was struck by the weight of anticipation pressing against her chest. The following days marked a significant turning point, rich with newfound determination. Maya scoured her childhood home, brushing through the flickering dust motes along windowsills and leather-bound tomes stacked in the shadows of the living room. The space felt altered, almost sacred, transformed by each shared memory she unearthed with Linda at her side. "I never understood how that could hurt so deeply," Linda confided as they stumbled upon a cardboard box tucked beneath old blankets in the attic. Inside, they discovered a trove of vibrant sketches, hastily created but overflowing with emotion. Each stroke revealed fragments of her mother's spirit, joy, sorrow, love, and longing, all tied to the colors she had chosen to express them. As Maya delved into their meanings, a calling began to unfurl within her. She was no longer just a passive observer of her mother's artistic legacy. She actively became a participant, extracting wisdom from layers of brushwork and forgotten hues. There was an intoxicating thrill in seeing her mother not just as a figure of tragedy, but as a powerful creator whose passion weaved like threads through Maya's own existence. "See here," Maya pointed at a particular sketch, a whimsical representation of a storm-tossed sea. "I can feel the chaos and beauty intertwined. It's like she was trying to capture how overwhelming life can be." Linda nodded, recognition brightening her eyes. She poured her soul into every piece. It was her way of speaking, where words fell short. Through these moments, Maya confronted an inner battle, the fear of becoming overshadowed by a legacy that felt immense. She began questioning her own worth as an artist. Could she ever live up to the genius her mother embodied, or was she destined to wander aimlessly in this vast shadow? Each piece they uncovered pushed her closer to clarity. She began to sketch again, tentatively at first, an act that felt both joyous and intimidating. She would sit beside Linda in the evenings, pencils and brushes brimming with the ink of their combined inspiration. It was a release, a connection that stray tendrils of grief desperately needed. As the days turned to weeks, the attic became a sanctuary, a creative forge that burned brightly with the shared fire of two women wrestling with their past and present. Still, the lingering question wove its way through Maya's thoughts. Could she forge her own path while honoring the legacy of a mother she barely knew? What they were uncovering was not merely art. They were unraveling a clandestine bond, stitching together the fragments of their lives into something wholly original. Yet deep within Maya, the shadows of doubt remained, gnawing at her realization of self-worth and authenticity. With every completed painting, she assimilated clarity alongside anxiety. The real questions surfaced uninvited. Could her artistry stand independent of her mother's shadow? The answer remained elusive, teasing her like a dream slipping further away upon awakening. As they prepared for an upcoming local exhibit, Maya's anticipation transformed into anxiety. What if they don't see me? What if I'm just her daughter in their eyes? Linda gently brushed her arm, grounding her. "You are Maya. You are an artist. In your own right. This is your moment." But the tension hung like a damp fog. Could she truly step into the spotlight? With the exhibit looming, uncertainty simmered beneath the surface. Would her exploration of her mother's past lead to her own artistic emancipation, or would it tether her forever to that haunting legacy? Maya took a deep breath, ready to face the unknown that awaited. Could this festival of colors and creativity truly be the launchpad into her own brightness? The clock was ticking down, and her moment of truth was on the horizon. Maya stood at the threshold of the gallery, her heart thundering in her chest. Paintings hung on stark white walls, vibrant yet daunting under the bright lights. She had poured herself into each brushstroke, yet they felt like vulnerable extensions of her being, waiting to be scrutinized by strangers. Despite Linda's encouragement echoing in her mind, self-doubt loomed large, thick, and unforgiving. "Look at them," Linda said softly, as if sensing her turmoil. "You created this, Maya. You are here, front and center." The words held weight, but they felt inadequately tethered to the reality of her fear. Could she really step into this arena and be seen as an individual rather than merely an extension of a legacy? The images of her mother, infused in every canvas, felt almost like a security blanket, a familiar warmth, but was also a noose tightening around her own identity. Maya took a step back, absorbing the kaleidoscope of colors and emotions that surrounded her. Each painting was a manifestation of her struggle, capturing the layers of grief intertwined with emerging strength. But the nagging sensation remained: acceptance. Could the attendees see her intent, her voice, within the swirls and splashes that seemed to scream for recognition, but merely whispered, "I'm here"? Moments stretched into tenuous seconds as the clock ticked toward the opening. She could feel the heat in her cheeks, the lump in her throat tightening with each passing minute. She sought refuge in the familiar sketches, the forgotten, saturated emotions her mother had so passionately laid onto canvas. In the back of her mind, she reflected on the countless moments spent analyzing the strokes and hues with Linda, transforming grief into art. Yet here, surrounded by strangers, it was less about conveying that passion and more about wielding it against the panic rising within her. "Do you think they'll understand?" Maya's voice trembled, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. Linda crossed her arms, her posture radiating patience. "It's not your responsibility to make them understand. Your art speaks for itself." Taking a deep breath, Maya attempted to embrace that notion, only to feel her resolve waver. She began to picture herself standing before each group of viewers, explaining the intricate motivations behind each piece, channeling emotions she thought were too raw, too tangled for comprehension. In a sudden rush of impulse, she stepped towards a painting, a turbulent ocean scene. It was as much a reflection of her internal conflict as it was her mother's artistry. As her fingers grazed the canvas, she felt an overwhelming surge of emotion stir within her. She was both terrified and liberated, like an ancient ship finally breaking free from its moorings. Just then, a young woman, around Maya's age, approached with an inquisitive look. "Your work is stunning." Maya's throat dried, her mind racing. "Thank you," she managed. "What inspired this piece?" the woman asked, tilting her head slightly. Maya felt the question hang heavy in the air. A door opened wide to confrontation and connection both. "It represents the chaos of life, how beauty and turmoil intertwine." The words fell from her lips, raw and unfiltered, revealing the layers of her struggle, not just with the art, but within her own identity. As the woman studied her closely, Maya felt the tentative weight of validation buoy her spirit, momentarily lifting the fog of self-doubt. Perhaps this was her moment, after all. Maybe vulnerability was the key that unlocked acceptance. But as the crowd gradually thickened, she could feel the pull of suffocating anxiety creeping back in, threatening to overshadow her. Would her stride toward authenticity hold, or fracture amidst the expectations she feared? Before she could dwell too deeply, another voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me, is this your work?" A senior artist approached, observing her closely, keen and discerning. The unexpected scrutiny sent a tremor through Maya. With every heartbeat, a question crystallized in her mind. Would this interaction affirm her developing identity, or would it deepen her insecurities? The moment felt pivotal. Here it was, the chance to carve out a space for herself apart from her mother's legacy. Yet the struggle was palpable, and the impending doubt loomed. Would she rise to meet the challenge or shrink beneath its weight? Maya braced herself, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, the rush of anticipation tinged with trepidation coursing through her. The exhibition was only beginning, but so too was her own journey into uncharted territory. The senior artist leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinized the brushwork. Maya's stomach twisted with apprehension. She yearned for validation, yet the weight of uncertainty pulsed in her chest. "I see a deep struggle here," he said, his voice low and resonant, as if he were dissecting her very essence. Maya searched his vase for skepticism, but found only intensity. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Have you considered exploring more?" he continued, his tone both probing and inviting. "There's a rawness here." Suddenly, his critical eyes shifted, and Maya felt both exposed and invigorated. This was not merely an examination, it was an invitation, one that asked her to embody the art she had created. The notion of exploring more felt overwhelming. There was comfort in familiarity, in the cocoon of the past her mother had woven. Yet what if this invitation was also a call for her to confront the demand for authenticity? It stirred a flame within her that threatened to ignite a transformation, but fear loomed in the shadows. What if she ventured too far, only to lose the thread that intertwined her own identity with her mother's legacy? She steeled herself, clearing her throat to gather courage. "I want to," she admitted, feeling a weight lift slightly off her shoulders. "But I'm not sure if I should stray from the path she laid out." The artist's brow lifted in surprise. "You mustn't hold back. Embrace the messiness of creation. Your journey is unique, even if it parallels another's. Your voice deserves to be heard." A wave of realization washed over Maya. Perhaps remaining in her mother's shadow limited her artistry far more than simply being rooted in that familial legacy. The vines of expectations had intertwined tightly, but the call of her own identity urged her to untangle them boldly, even uncomfortably. As the evening wore on, she noticed more artists and patrons gathering around her pieces, engaging in discussion. Each word uttered about her work seemed to wind back to the same pulse: discovery. Their questions were not mere inquiries about technique. They sought connection. This was an opportunity not only to share her art, but to unearth her own truths hidden within each stroke. "Maya, what do you plan next?" a young man asked, his eyes shining with anticipation. The question hung in the air like a ripe fruit, inviting her to grasp it. "I think maybe I should explore themes that resonate with my own journey," she began, her voice gaining unexpected strength. "I want to question what it means to carry the weight of someone else's legacy while also carving out my own path." She felt an electrifying shift in the atmosphere. The acknowledgement of her distinct journey began to resonate with the audience. Each nod, each murmur of agreement from viewers transformed into gentle encouragement, fueling her resolve. In that moment, Maya discovered a nerve of her own. The stories she had archived within herself, fearful of their explosive potential, began to bubble to the surface. Each canvas, birthed from the chaos of grief, could hold truths not just with respect to her mother, but also to her emerging self. The embrace of vulnerability solidified like paint drying on a freshly applied canvas. The risk of exposure thrilled her, and in that thrill lay the promise of liberation. This awakening had begun, and though doubt still whispered echoed in the recesses of her mind, it no longer felt predominant. And yet, just as the light of self-discovery sparked within her, her gaze fell on the senior artist again, watching intently. The weight of his scrutiny returned with a newfound intensity, accompanied by a sharp awareness of the responsibility that came with her budding identity.
What would it take to fully embrace this emerging voice without losing the essence of where she started? The complexity swirled, as enticing as the color palette surrounding her. Instead of feeling drained, though, a
new question rooted itself in her mind as she scanned the audience. Was this too tender of a moment to forge forward, or was it precisely the catalyst she needed to challenge every expectation that wrapped around her like a shroud? As her heart raced with possibility, Maya felt fate nudging her ever so gently. The night was still young, inviting her to weave deeper threads into her tapestry of expression. Little did she realize, mingling amidst the crowd, an old friend stood waiting for the precise moment to challenge her on the very legacy she now sought to redefine. The conversation she dreaded and desired was about to unfold, and Maya would have to confront the truth within herself or fade back into obscurity. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she deciphered the familiar figure weaving through the crowd. It was Rachel, an old friend from art school, whose laughter had once danced through their shared studio, a bittersweet reminder of the vibrant dreams they had spun together. The warmth swiftly dissipated, replaced by a chill of anxiety. Rachel's presence was a reminder of the choices Maya had neglected while entangled in the legacy of her mother's work. Rachel approached with a confident stride, her eyes sparkling with an enthusiasm that made Maya's heart pound. "I didn't expect to see you here, Maya. Your pieces are stunning." The compliment slipped seamlessly from Rachel's lips, but Maya could feel the weight behind it. A critical truth lingered just below the surface. "Thanks, Rachel," Maya replied, attempting to wield her nerves like a shield. Her smile felt weak, a mask she crafted in a hurry. Rachel studied her for a moment, tilting her head as if deciphering an abstract painting. "But I know there's more behind those strokes. Is there something you're not sharing?" Maya's pulse quickened. The question cut deeper than any critique. She instinctively recoiled, the instinctual response to protect herself blooming anew. The vibrant colors she had just begun to embrace now appeared muted in the shadow of Rachel's gaze. Beneath the surface of Rachel's inquiry lay the complexities of their past, a path lined with ambitions and a shared understanding of struggle. Unraveled, these layers revealed the vulnerability Maya was desperate to sidestep. Perhaps she had convinced herself that art had to be a veil, a filter through which she could observe life instead of living it fully. Really, it's just— Maya hesitated, words caught in a crossfire of emotions. "It's about finding my voice beyond my mother's legacy." Rachel nodded knowingly, her expression deepening with insight. "You've always looked to her for guidance, but it's okay to create your path too. Your voice deserves to unfurl in its own way." The gentle validation nudged something within Maya, an ember of courage long stifled. "I want to explore what that means," she admitted, feeling the cracks in her facade widen. "I'm terrified of compromising that legacy, though. I chose safety over courage for far too long." "Then take "The leap," Rachel urged, stepping closer, her words coiling around Maya with an undeniable warmth. "I understand the weight of expectations. It's daunting, but being true to yourself is the only way to honor her." She paused, faltering slightly, "and you." The sincerity of Rachel's encouragement ignited a small flame of resolve within her, a stark contrast to the heavy hesitation that had weighted her down. A conflict stirred in the pit of Maya's stomach, both exhilarating and terrifying. Was it truly possible to honor her mother while simultaneously salvaging her identity? Perhaps the hesitation stemmed not just from fear of failure. Perhaps it was the fear of brilliance, of standing alone in the spotlight. Rachel, anticipating the flurry of thoughts storming through Maya's mind, maintained her steady gaze. "Start by painting what's true to you. Explore those shadows of doubt, unravel the threads. Your journey is compelling enough to be your greatest canvas." Maya's heart thumped wildly, caught between the exhilarating possibility and the dread of erasing her mother's legacy from her own story. Maybe Rachel's words were a compass, guiding her through disorientation, leading her towards a place where authenticity blended seamlessly with the past. As their conversation unfolded, the reality echoed in Maya's mind like the ringing of an alarm bell. The moment had arrived for her to confront both the legacy she cherished and the artist she longed to become. Just as she began to articulate her next steps, a shift in the energy around them alerted Maya. Someone nearby had drawn closer, their presence sharpening the air. Maya felt her breath hitch again as she turned, locking eyes with the senior artist. An unspoken challenge flickered between them. She could almost hear the questions murmuring in his gaze. Was she ready to embrace a fully awakened voice? The air crackled with anticipation, and in that flicker of connection, Maya knew the real test awaited. Would she step into the light or retreat to the darkness? And more importantly, what would the price of that step reveal about her true identity? The night, shrouded in half-formed intentions, waited silently as the possibility of a new beginning loomed closer. A moment of truth that teetered on the brink of revelation. Maya felt her resolve quiver as she faced the senior artist, a man whose reputation danced like a flickering flame in the background of many emerging artists' aspirations. His presence felt almost magnetic, drawing her in while simultaneously instigating a whirlwind of doubts. The air thickened with unspoken expectations, the rhythm of her heartbeat echoing her inner turmoil. She had spent years idling in the shadows of her past, letting the legacy of her mother overshadow her pursuit of authenticity. Now, with Rachel's urging tucked into her consciousness like a rare gem, she sought a way forward. The artist's piercing gaze seemed to sift through her layers, searching for authenticity within the facade of polite smiles and half-formed ideas she had constructed. "I see something in your work," he began, his voice rumbling with authority. "But is it truly yours, or are you merely an echo of someone else's vision?" Each word struck Maya like a hammer, reverberating in her mind. The question was exactly what she had avoided contemplating, a confrontation with her own insecurities. What was she without the weight of her mother's legacy? Each line she painted, every color she chose, was it an expression of her true self, or a shadow cast by the woman she had always idolized? Maya could feel the tension mounting around her, a specter of her grandmother's influence blending with her mother's bold strokes. She stammered, trapped between an honest answer and the desire to protect the walls she had carefully crafted. "What you're grappling with is not uncommon," he said, as if recognizing her internal strife. "The struggle to separate your path from that of those before you, the fear that stepping out may overshadow their brilliance." His words echoed in her, unwinding the tight knots of doubt and fear she had clung to. What if standing apart didn't mean erasing her mother's influence? What if there was a way to honor that history while weaving in her own narrative? Maya took a breath, steadying herself. "I'm learning to reclaim my voice," she declared, feeling the pulse of liberation thrumming within her chest. "But there's hesitation. I fear losing what I had before. It's like dancing on the edge of a cliff." "Embrace that uncertainty," he urged. "Let your brushes move not with fear, but with curiosity. You'll discover that authentic expression can build on legacies rather than dismantle them. Your job is to blend the colors of your past and present, not to choose one over the other." A subtle warmth radiated from his words, planting seeds of determination in her heart. She had always considered her legacy as an anchor, something that held her down rather than something buoyant that could elevate her into new horizons. Maybe Rachel and this artist were right. Her journey didn't require a complete severing of ties, but instead an awakening of the dormant elements that genuinely made her, her. Maya locked her gaze back on him, emboldened. So what's the first question I should ask myself? The right question is not about what your art represents, but what it speaks of you. Dive into who you are and what matters to you. The joys, the heartaches, the complexities. Each stroke should be a conversation with yourself. Nerves still churning, Maya felt the edges of her uncertainty soften slightly. Perhaps her journey could be a pale reflection of her mother's, mingled with her own story. The emotions that bled into the canvas as both a tribute and a genesis of something new. As they spoke further about pushing boundaries, her heart raced at the prospect of starting fresh, yet the weight of expectation remained. Each moment carried the potential for vibrant creation, but it demanded a taste of risk she had long resisted. Turning back to Rachel to share her thoughts, a flicker of question haunted her mind. Could she really harness the courage to transform her hesitance into fuel? The night closed in, laced with possibilities. Maya sensed that a decision loomed near, one that would eternally alter both her art and identity. Could she face the canvas of her mind and expose what truly lay beneath the surface? As excitement mingled with apprehension, Maya understood that stepping fully into the light demanded more than just a promise to herself. It was a commitment to weave her mother's essence into the tapestry of her own brilliance. Before she could elaborate on this revelation, however, a shadow fell across their groups. Someone had overheard part of their conversation. Maya's pulse quickened. What they might think, or worse, what could they expose? The air thickened once more, anticipation crashing against the walls of her newly kindled confidence, and reminding her that the forthcoming challenge awaited her, demanding she make a choice. Would she run towards her truth, or retreat once again into obscurity? A tension hung palpably in the air, wrapping around Maya like an unseen web, each strand tightening with the presence of a new observer. The stranger shifted, eyes curiously attached to the conversation, as if they could divine the secrets woven between her and the senior artist. A faint whisper of panic fluttered in Maya's chest, her newly ignited resolve teetering on the precarious edge of doubt once more. What if this stranger deemed her unworthy, unprovable in her own right? The thought stirred an old impulse, the one that urged her to retreat into the shadows, where she once felt familiarity cradled her uncertainties. But today, grounding herself in the promise of self-expression, Maya hesitated. "Focus on your work," she murmured to herself. The words felt like both an instruction and a mantra, reminding her why she stood there, striving to reclaim her narrative, to audition for her identity on her terms. Yet the stranger's gaze remained unnervingly close. Turning slightly, she caught Rachel's eye across the room. Her friend's encouragement, the persistent nudging that had propelled Maya closer to this moment, fueled a fierce quietness within her. Bursting with anxious energy, she resolved that fear didn't have the authority to dictate her next move. She refused to let it douse her curiosity like water on embers. "Thank you for this insight," Maya said, addressing the senior artist while bolstering her voice against the apprehension. "I hadn't seen it that way. I guess I have always been afraid to confront what truly makes me, me." The artist offered her a nod of understanding, the corners of his mouth lifting in a slight smile. "Acknowledgement is the first step. Allow the fear to exist alongside your creativity. It's all part of the tapestry you weave. The struggle isn't just necessary, it births the depth of your work." With those words resonating in her core, Maya felt an unfamiliar sense of calm settling in. Perhaps the tension she had felt wasn't Merely a hindrance, but a herald of something greater, an invitation to explore her vulnerabilities as fuel for innovation. The looming weight of expectation, both from her past and the observing stranger, condensed into a familiar challenge. Could she turn it into something transformative instead? Determined, she turned from the artist, redirecting her focus to the stranger, who had casually approached their small circle. "Yes?" Maya inquired, adopting a tone that danced on the edge of assertiveness, a stark departure from her previous timidity. "I couldn't help but overhear," the newcomer began, a scrutinizing gleam in their eye. "You're rediscovering your voice, right? It's a brave path. But sometimes the echo of those we admire can block our true message." As they spoke, Maya sensed that this person could either be a threat or an ally. The flicker of fear danced in her gut again, threatening to choke off her burgeoning confidence. But within the uncertainty lay a fresh seed of intrigue. Was this path leading to a confrontation she'd been anticipating? Perhaps now was the moment when the pieces of her existence might converge, where revelations could shatter her reverence for the ghosts of her history. "Yes, I'm trying to step away from their shadows," Maya replied, allowing candor to find its place in her voice. "But it's difficult with those expectations." "Then strip away the fear," they suggested, their tone sharpening. "Can you really look at your work and know it breathes your spirit? Or is it still shackled by doubt?" Maya didn't flinch, but found her heart pounding with equal parts uncertainty and exhilarating urgency. Honest reflection compelled her to probe deeper within. The artist's earlier words flickered through her mind. The challenge she faced now was more than an external confrontation. It was a personal reckoning. "Show me your work," the stranger insisted, eyes gleaming with intrigue. The demand hung in the air, a powerful invitation to unravel the complexities of her art. "Show me what you've created." The weight of their insistence thrummed inside Maya, igniting sparks of excitement amid the nerves. She felt her barriers begin to crack, revealing a swirling rush of emotional truth beneath. Could she translate this moment into pure artistic bravery? To unveil her work, shadowed by the looming expectations, was daunting, but the potential for discovery shifted the balance. "Okay," Maya breathed, inwardly teetering on that precarious cliff once more, but this time with clearer intent. Her commitment to navigate this challenge, to face not only the judgment of others, but her own self, began to invigorate her escalating desire for authenticity. As she led the way toward her gallery of creation, she felt the invisible threads of her past intertwining with the fresh tapestry she was forging. What would she uncover in that confrontation? Would her new revelations propel her forward, or entangle her deeper in the shadows? The night echoed with questions, each step forward heavy with possibility. Would she find herself amid the whispers of doubt, or would she discover a voice so true it silenced all others? Maya's fingers brushed the door handle of her studio, a tactile signal that she was on the brink of something monumental. That thin veneer separating her and the world faded as she pushed it open, revealing the colorful array of her creations. The air held a familiar scent of oil paints mixed with a faint trace of linseed, a comforting yet daunting welcome into her realm of self-expression. The stranger followed closely behind, their curiosity palpable, and for a split moment Maya nearly faltered. Each canvas stood as a testament to her struggles, hopes, and dreams, and yet there lay a vast chasm, one that contained doubt and hesitation. She sensed their assessing gaze as it swept over her work, the very essence of her being laid bare before an audience she had not anticipated. This was her moment of truth. "Here it is," Maya announced, forcing the words through clenched teeth. There was a tremor in her voice, but beneath it lay a buried resolve. This was not just about art, this was a confrontation with herself.
Did her work truly reflect her spirit, or was it merely an echo of what she had been taught to aspire to? "How does it feel?" the stranger asked, their eyes narrowing as they stepped closer to a large piece that demonstrated her struggles with identity and self-acceptance. "Does this resonate with who you are right now?" Maya swallowed hard. "No," she admitted, her voice dropping. "I've always painted what I think people want to see. I've wanted to please others." The admission felt like a weight slipping off her shoulders, but it quickly tethered itself back with the onset of anxiety. As the truth seeped out, she feared it was too late to reclaim her narrative. "The first step is acknowledgement," the stranger reiterated, shifting their weight slightly, an unyielding force against her wavering spirit. "Can you show us what you really feel?" There was a challenge buried within their probing question, pushing her to peel away the layers she had so carefully constructed. Each piece showcased fragments of her reality, but tonight she felt unusually vulnerable. What if the colors didn't echo her truth? What if they connected with that nagging voice of doubt instead? Maya pulled herself upright, drawing upon the stillness she felt amidst the chaos of her mind. Those early lessons in art flooded her thoughts. She remembered her instructors urging her to dig deeper, to let raw emotion drive her brushstrokes. You can't truly create until you embrace all of who you are. Your struggles have shaped your perspective. Transform that into your art. It was time to break those chains. She stepped toward her easel, a swirling canvas of bold blues and chaotic yellows that had once felt like a muddled reflection of her internal conflict. "Watching them stand, though, different circles, that's what I feel." Her voice grew steadier, empowered by her vulnerability. Staring at other people's lives, feeling oddly detached yet deeply invested. "I've always felt like a spectator." The stranger remained silent, giving Maya the space to rise from her shadows. With each word, clarity emerged, transforming doubt into creative fuel. Opening the floodgates, she recalled the strength that had once lived within her. It was time to strip away expectation and synthesize a narrative drawn from her heart, not from the phantom desires of others. "And this?" She pointed to a darker canvas splattered with sporadic strokes of black and white. "This reflects my fear of being seen, my anxiety over judgment." "Now, which piece shows your triumph?" the stranger challenged, igniting a spark within her. The sun peeked through a dusty window, casting an ethereal light over her latest work, a self-portrait captured in vibrant reds and ember oranges, infusing almost a sense of hope. Maya laid herself bare under the deluge of her emotions. "This one," she said quietly, readiness igniting in her voice. "This embodies my aspiration to be authentically me." A bright-eyed smile crossed the stranger's face as they replied, "Then show the world." Her heart pounded, each beat resonating with renewed purpose. What had begun as an anxious confrontation was morphing into a revelation. She was ready to navigate further into this uncharted territory of her artistry. Yet, as she prepared to unleash herself in all her messy, glorious authenticity, doubts loomed on the horizon once more. What if the world rejected the real Maya? The question, urgent and clawing, threatened to cloud her emerging clarity. She inhaled deeply, the promise of self-liberation shimmering at the forefront of her thoughts. Why not take a leap? A voice echoed within her. With a final glance at the stranger, her heart racing, she decided to bare her truth. But was this leap an embrace of artistic freedom, or was it a reckless plunge into uncertainty? The choice lay at her feet. What would she dare do next? Maya stood amidst her canvases, a maelstrom of emotions surging through her. The electric atmosphere in her studio was alive with possibility and challenge. For years, she had felt like a mere echo of her mother's artistic legacy, shackled by the expectations of others and her own fears. Now, with each brushstroke she had poured onto her canvases, a flicker of authenticity surged within her, igniting the flames of self-awareness and confidence she so desperately sought. As she allowed herself to confront the stranger, and by extension her own insecurities, something profound began to crystallize within her. The tumult of her feelings transformed into a solid determination to embrace her voice as an artist. She would not just channel her mother, she would honor her legacy by weaving her truth into the tapestry of her artistry. Her journey would be one of reclamation, a potent exploration of identity that merged the past she revered with the future she yearned to build. With resolve stirred in her heart, she turned back to the shimmering canvas that depicted her hopes for the future, a vibrant self-portrait that captured her emerging identity. "This is who I want to be," she declared, her own voice steadier now, resonating with newfound strength. "This piece represents the joy of owning my narrative. It's filled with the feelings I've suppressed for too long, the colors of my insecurities, and also the brilliant hues of hope I've discovered in this journey." The stranger nodded appreciatively, their expression transforming from curiosity to admiration. "This is your moment, Maya. Shed the burden of comparison. Illuminate the story only you can tell, and don't shy away from the emotions that fuel it." Maya felt the floodgates of her creativity burst open. She realized that fusing her talents with her vulnerabilities would lead her toward mastery. Those moments of struggle, the yearning for her mother's validation, the shadows of self-doubt, were not her chains. They were stepping stones, shaping her into a profound artist with a distinct voice. In that surge of clarity, Maya decided to embrace the chaos. She reflected on her journey thus far and saw how far she had come. No longer just a girl waiting for approval, she was now a woman standing at the forefront of her own destiny. She could feel the solid weight of that realization center her being, grounding her in the depths of her new identity. Without hesitating, she reached for the paint, her hands steady and purposeful. With each stroke on the canvas, she infused her truer self into her work, transforming vulnerability into artistic vigor. The colors vibrated with passion. The textures echoed layers of her soul. "Maya, this is powerful," the stranger remarked, their eyes ardent as they absorbed her transformation. "You are crafting your narrative, paint by paint. Speak your truth through every stroke." With the stranger's affirmation ringing in her ears, Maya felt the culmination of her growth surface. It was tangible, real, and completely hers. Gone were the days of being an afterthought in the gallery of her own life. She was crafting a vivid tableau of her own existence, interlacing shadows and brilliance, vulnerability and strength, forging a path that was entirely authentic. As she stepped back to assess her work, the doorbell rang, jolting her from the depths of her newfound artistry. The sound sped her heart, but this time it was not fear she felt as she opened the door. It was anticipation. Standing before her was Rachel, the encouraging friend whose voice had penetrated the doubts she once clung to. "Maya, I've seen your transformation on social media," Rachel exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "Your exhibit, everyone is talking about it. You're achieving visibility on your own terms." In that moment, Maya felt a swell of pride rush through her. The journey she had embarked upon, stitched together with shared grief and growing introspection, had led her to this very moment, celebrated not just as the daughter of, but as Maya, a force unto herself. "Thank you," she replied, heart brimming with gratitude. "Your support spurred me forward." Together, they stepped back into the studio, where the canvases gleamed with vibrant stories, reflections of both loss and newfound triumph. She realized that with each passing day, she was replacing trepidation with empowerment, doubt with clarity of purpose.
There was no need to fear obscurity when her journey was authentically her own, rich with layers only she could unveil. And so, as the sun dipped lower, illuminating her creations, Maya felt a peace settle within her. She had accomplished not just the unveiling of her art, but also the unveiling of her identity. It was a grounding moment, one she would carry with her as she stepped boldly into the world, ready to share her truth and artistry without reservation. Now, standing in her own space amidst her creations, the shadows of past expectations faded into the depths of her vibrant palette, a testimony to her journey. Here, at the threshold of her future, she stood solid in her confidence, for Maya knew she had conquered her fears. The colors of her heart now echoed loudly enough to drown out the echoes of those who doubted her. This was the moment Maya had been waiting for. She had not only found her voice, but had also become the artist she was destined to be. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support genuinely makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about Maya's journey and how you resonate with her growth. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to inspire others together. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this creative and empowering community.